So I'm taking you on my journey with me of using ChatGPT to look for a new dishwasher. I need a quiet machine and I absolutely require a sanitize function, given the preferences in my household. I currently have a KitchenAid. So here ChatGPT starts throwing out things like dBA, which is a reference to the decibel levels of the machine. And I start realizing that there's a pretty big swing in this decibel level. So, what are the quietest? What do I need to know about this? Evidently, it's more complicated than I expected. And so here we see ChatGPT is making all of these recommendations. And in the end, it comes away with saying that something below 45 decibels or 45 dBA is going to be my best option. I'm going to push it even further and say I want a machine below 40 and it must have a sanitize option. Please give me a revised list of recommendations. So we go through this process and I can start seeing here that I want some reviews. It's making these recommendations, it's not giving me reviews. So I want more. Give me more information, please. And what's interesting is that it's pulling through not only consumer feedback that consumers are leaving about the products in places like Best Buy or Home Depot. It's then also highlighting consumer reviews, or sorry, professional reviews, individuals that are professionally trained to write these types of feedback about these products. So in the end, I'm still partial to a KitchenAid product. I have a lot of other KitchenAid things in my house. I don't really want to change that. So I push it to give me a KitchenAid product. And then I go through here and I look at this New York Post review. And one thing I want to pause here for a minute and look at something that's really important. Here we can see that the New York Post may be compensated or receive affiliate commission. Something to note here is that this is a paid for post. Um, these large language models are not all treating third party reviews of products in the same way. You could work with your PR team to get true earned media, someone like Vogue or the New York Post or the Wall Street Journal or Forbes, to write a review about your product. But you can also use this affiliate option to get paid for placements. And these large language models will pull it in and treat it in the same way. Not to say that it will always be that way, and I would assume that the algorithms will get more advanced over the course of time to differentiate the paid for and the non-paid for placements. But right now, it's interesting to note that they are treated fairly equivalently by the large language models. So here we can see that it's going through, it's making these recommendations, and ultimately I go back and ask it, how much does this cost? It gives me recommendations. Clearly, I like the Home Depot. I buy at the Home Depot. I have the app installed on my phone, and I can go through and execute my purchase. Nowhere in this journey have I visited the brand's website or any brand's website. I've barely visited any third party reviews. I've just relied on ChatGPT to surface the information that I need to know. And then I'm making a purchase decision off of it. This is a very different user journey than what would have happened even 6 months ago in my world. Now we're going to look at Grok. I am a blockchain enthusiast. I used to be the chief marketing officer of a layer one blockchain. I fully believe in a blockchain future, in cryptocurrency, and in NFTs. And so here I am using Grok because I want all of that X content, what we call crypto Twitter, or is abbreviated to CT. So whenever I do any queries related to blockchain, cryptos, or NFTs, I automatically go to Grok and bypass every other large language model. So here you can see I've started asking it about how to safely store NFTs, and it's pulling in all of these different X posts or tweets from crypto Twitter. Here it has Ledger, Binance, and then it's also pulling in 15 relevant web pages. So it's merging those information sources together. And I can look here and see that one of its sources is the Blockchain Council. It's a .org. To me, that means it's relevant and authoritative and valuable. And as such, I can go through here and read more about what the Blockchain Council recommends. From there, I can go back to Grok. I can do more research. I can push it in different ways to pull in even more information and get the answer that I need in the same way that I've used ChatGPT. But here I get to use crypto Twitter to answer my very, very specific questions. Other people are using Grok just generally for the way that I use ChatGPT. I just have very specific preferences, but my preferences are not the preferences of all of your potential consumers or society at large. But what's interesting to me is that Grok has brought to the fore X or Twitter once again. It's a platform that a lot of brands and organizations stopped paying as much attention to as they pivoted towards things like TikTok and Meta, i.e., Facebook and Instagram. But now, all of this information in Grok, whether it's influencers or third parties just writing about your brand, or whether it's your brand provided posts, are actually really important. It is fueling this large language model that is picking up in importance for your target end consumer. And so here I come to the conclusion that I want a ledger. It deposits me on the ledger official website. And I go through here and I'm ready to make a purchase based off of recommendations from X, from Twitter. And finally, here I'm turning towards Perplexity. This is another large language model that is picking up in importance. People really like it. Its number of downloads in the App Store is increasing. And here I'm asking it about whether or not I need an air fryer. It will come back and deliver me a variety of recommendations about how I could use an air fryer in my day to day cooking. And you can see here that it has its links and its sources cited really, really clearly. I can click them, I can read more. And one of the things that I think is really interesting about Perplexity is that it gives me these related questions. This is a similar interface and format that you'd be accustomed to in using Google, where Google has the people also ask box. It's pulling that in and using that feature and integrating it into the large language model to prompt me to learn more and go down these paths without having to type. It's really interesting. I like that. So here then, I do go back and type again, even though it's asking these related questions. And for me, a big concern is it easy to clean? I don't want to buy a new thing that then is going to be a massive headache for maintenance. So I can go through, it gives me recommendations about how I can clean it. And I wind up going through and getting to a point, I'm speeding this along for the sake of time. Um, I'm asking it about features, and it brings me to this shopping interface, which I think is really interesting. So when I ask it about its most important features, it lists them below, but then also starts providing this carousel, again, a format we're very familiar with because of Google. And so it's pulling these things through, and I can ultimately click through and buy with Pro. If I go to show more, it's pulling through a feed that sends me to Kohl's or Target, Best Buy, Williams Sonoma. I can pick the outlet based on where I like to shop or the product that it's showing me. And it also is pulling through the discounts. Again, this is very, very similar to Google. And at the end of the day, this makes it so easy to go through and buy that honestly, I ended my journey with Perplexity thinking, I need to redo my whole dishwasher query, but do it in Perplexity this time because this seems like it'd be a lot easier to make a purchase than my user journey in ChatGPT. Really interesting. So, all in all, what does this tell us? Search is changing. There's this inflection point that has occurred, and millions of consumers are now looking to these large language models for instant answers. It could be that they're going to one large language model to solve all their problems, or they could be using multiple large language models based on their specific needs. Like, for example, my specific desire to use Grok to pull in crypto Twitter. And this is just the beginning. AI powered search has increased nearly 500% in the last 2 years, and we're seeing small declines in traditional search. Does this mean it's the end and the death of traditional search in Google? No, it's not the end and it's not the death. And Google will continue to evolve Gemini to be able to compete in this evolving landscape. But it is important to think about, what does the large language model need? How is this changing what your consumers are doing? And how do you make sure that you're there when your consumers are searching and potentially looking for their answers? And we've arrived in this new era of search. Traditional search was dominated by Google, but had other players in the space like Bing and Yahoo, Brave, DuckDuckGo. And ultimately, there are a lot of pros. It's an established traffic driver. We have established tactics to deliver results, and we know how to measure the success of this platform. But it's highly competitive, it's highly saturated, and it's ultimately hard to improve rankings. And now we have this new era of AI search where we have rapid growth and adoption. There's exciting opportunity to experiment, and you can have the first mover advantage by starting to deploy programs designed to improve your brand visibility in these AI models. But it's difficult. It's unclear what the data sources are, it's unclear what the user behaviors are, and it requires a whole new management approach. But one of the things we do definitively know is that AI search is not SEO. In the table on the right, we list out a variety of factors, and you can see how we would usually influence those factors in a traditional SEO program versus in an AI search program. We are looking at a new ranking approach. Traditional SEO is focused around keywords and links, and now large language models are focused on semantic understanding and natural language processing. This means that we're looking at revising content strategies. Traditional SEO is looking at keyword density. Now, instead, large language models are prioritizing contextual relevance and concise answers. A lot of our clients are not only needing to write new content, but rewrite, merge, and integrate existing content so that we still meet the needs of traditional search engines, but we're also better serving the needs of these LLMs. And finally, authority management has shifted as well. Traditional SEO relies on backlinks, not only getting an article that reviews your product, but ensuring you have a link to your site so the algorithm, the traditional bot, can crawl it and go back to your site. Now, LLMs are focusing on content quality and trusted source mentions. They don't need that explicit link. They know that the brand mention is related to your website. You don't need that explicit link to draw that connection. So, how do you get found in LLMs? I'm sure this leaves many of you scratching your heads and wondering, all right, well, what does this all mean? How do I show up there? Here at Avenue Z, we have three pillars of AI optimization that we focus on: media placements, content and creative, and technical optimization. And I'll dive into those a bit further. Technical optimization, I've already somewhat touched upon, and many of you will be familiar with this from search engine optimization because it's a lot of the same ideas, concepts, linguistics, just tweaked for the large language model. So you still need to update backend markup, code bases, citation implementation, schema, all of these things that you went through and would have implemented for Google, for example. Now you can go through and update and implement tweaked versions of this for the LLMs. And remember to look at Bing. A lot of SEO teams have overlooked Bing in the last decade because it represents such a small percentage of consumer use as compared to Google. But ultimately, ChatGPT's parent company, OpenAI, formed a partnership with Microsoft. And as part of that partnership, ChatGPT is using Bing's index to read the internet. So if Bing doesn't know your pages exist, it means that ChatGPT doesn't know your website exists or that new section of your website exists. So going through webmaster tools from Bing is really important. And we are seeing studies that show that ChatGPT, when it uses live internet search, aka Search GPT, when Search GPT is enabled, the answers are correlating with organic rankings. And studies differ. Some show Google has a larger correlation than Bing. Some show Bing has a larger correlation than Google. It seems to change based on the day and the provider doing the research. In this case, from Seer Interactive, in a study done in February of 2025, we're seeing an 87% correlation between Bing's ranking results and Search GPT versus a 56% correlation between Google and Search GPT. In addition to looking at those technical factors, content and creative on your site is crucial to boosting that AI visibility and authority. And we're recommending that clients go through and reassess their legacy content strategies and publish updated thought leadership around these thematic topics, and also make sure that the content published on their site aligns to their earned media strategy through these third party reputable media placements that are driving results. And we see here in an example on the right from ChatGPT a result for a query around high resolution digital cameras that record video in 8K. And here we see the first result is for a Nikon, and the citation it provides is from Tech Radar, which is owned by Future. And this is an outlet with which OpenAI has a formal partnership. So we're seeing that OpenAI is forging formal partnerships with third party outlets, and it's prioritizing content from those outlets. And in these partnerships, in the press releases, it is always stated that OpenAI receives access to archived and current content. So that means content behind the paywall as well. And then ChatGPT in exchange is including attribution to that original source and links to the full articles for transparency. So, what media outlets has OpenAI partnered with? A wide variety of them, and it has been working on them since the summer of 2023. So, it's been working on this for quite a while. You see everything from News Corp to Time, Condé Nast, Hearst, as recently as February 2025 with The Guardian. And that Tech Radar piece that I just mentioned is via Future from a partnership established in December of 2024. So we're seeing that the results come in quite quickly when these partnerships are created and crafted. And it is driving traffic, it's driving results. In this content piece from SimilarWeb published last month in March 2025, over the last 6 months, we see Reuters, New York Post, New York Times, Wall Street Journal are receiving a lot of traffic from ChatGPT going to these sites. So, inevitably, when I share this information, the next question that I get asked by potential clients or current clients is like, does this matter to me? How do I know that my users are using large language models? Is this relevant? Do I really need to do this? So here are a few pieces of information for you to consider. Based on this study from October and November 2024, so the end of last year, we are seeing significant disruption in a wide variety of industries. And I'm really excited to see Q1 data come out now that we've tipped the scales over into April. I expect in the next few weeks, we'll start seeing Q1 updated data. So keep your eyes peeled for that type of data, which we will be publishing on our blog at Avenue Z in the future. But we're seeing that industries across the board are being disrupted and impacted by the rise of large language models. And we're seeing that customers are using ChatGPT. In February 2025, there were 400 million weekly active users in ChatGPT alone. That doesn't count DeepSeek, Perplexity, Grok, Copilot, Gemini. This is just one LLM specifically. And you still may not be convinced. Look at your user demographics. Think about who you are going after. Who are your personas that you're trying to reach? What are your target demographics and psychographics? And does it align to these demographics that we're seeing for people using ChatGPT and using large language models more generally? We are seeing that 45% of individuals under the age of 24 are using large language models. 25% under the age between ages of 25 to 34. If you're going after this younger demographic, they might be using the large language model for, let's say, university research, their education, maybe for their day to day jobs and their work environment. But in my experience, once you start using it, you become hooked and then you go to it for everything from dishwasher and air fryer recommendations to trying to figure out who that actor is in the TV show that you can't place and what other films have they been in? What have I seen recently? Like, who is that guy? I have tons of questions about that from the last week alone in my ChatGPT search history. So it becomes a slippery slope of turning to ChatGPT to answer every single question you have, not just how do I improve my writing style. So to me, large language models are the next influencer. And I see here a question from Rebecca about how you would know if you're getting referrals from large language models. Google Analytics will tell you. Typically, Google Analytics will pull in traffic from large language models into a lot of different buckets. Some of it could be referral sources, referral traffic. Others fall into uncategorized categories. Typically, you need to make some updates to your setting in Google Analytics to properly attribute and bring all of your referral traffic from LLMs into the same bucket. So that's certainly something that we can help with if you want to reach out or chat with your analytics team at your organization, and they can look into this for you. And I wanted to leave you with three actionable takeaways today. This seems daunting. There's a lot going on. So, three actionable things you can do following today to start moving the needle. One is forging relationships. An effective strategy to influence AI recommendations is not done in a vacuum. It is a cross between PR, SEO, and content creation, as well as social media management. So start looking at how to build those cross departmental relationships. Maybe it's individuals in your organization, maybe it's meeting people from new agencies that you didn't even know you had on board. But talking with all of these individuals and starting to create strategies and frameworks for collaboration is really important. Number two, go through and audit your brand content. Think about it through the lens of a large language model. Think about it through the lens of brand messaging frameworks. Are you seeing consistency across X Twitter posts, through to your website, through to what you're doing from a PR perspective? How is this working together? Where do we need to start making edits and changes? Do we? Or how do we work together to even answer that question? Then finally, start looking at that PR coverage. Where do you have those strategic partnerships? Do they align to the platforms that ChatGPT has prioritized? And really start thinking about how you potentially need to change or expand your strategies to meet your new audience, the AI bot.